Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we'll be comparing a 2025 Ram Rebel to a 2024 Ram Rebel, because after the discounts on the 24, you can get way more truck for less money than what you can on the 25, so which one should you go for? Before we get into this video, I'm going to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry T. Miller Dodge Ram in Provo for giving me some time with both of the trucks. Link to their inventory in the description down below, link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. Let's get into it. So under the hood of the quote-unquote old Rebel is a 5.7 liter Hemi V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 18 around town and then 22 on the highway, with power outputs being 395 horsepower and then 410 pound-feet of torque. Now powering the new Rebel is a twin-turbo 3-liter inline 6. It also goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 17 around town and then 24 on the highway, with power outputs being 420 horsepower and then 469 pound-feet of torque. Before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So looking at them side by side, there's a lot more similarities than differences. I mean, look at the hoods, for example. All the venting and everything looks the same. Obviously, you know, that one says 5.7 Hemi, that one says Hurricane, but pretty much the same. The biggest difference is with the headlight design. You can see how that's completely different. It's a little bit sharper looking on the new one, whereas the previous gen, a little bit like wider with the lights themselves. And so you can see the bodywork here. Look how that's thinner, whereas the bodywork there is a little bit thicker, if that makes sense. But yeah, looking at the bumpers and the fog lights, all of that, I mean, it's identical between the two trucks. Now both of these trucks have 33s wrapped around 18-inch wheels, but there's a difference with the wheel design. So you can see the design here on the previous gen Rebel. Thick spokes. The new one kind of has these smaller, daintier spokes. So a little bit different with that. But yeah, tires are the same between them too. And then you guys can see with the fender flares and all of that. Trailer mirrors. Both of them have trailer mirrors. We've got the old style on the 24. We've got the new style on the 2025. So I guess I'd say that's a key difference. And then two-tone, both of them, you can see they're two-tone here. And then, yeah, they even have like the same ride height stance and all of that. Now notice that the previous gen has ram boxes. We'll go over why this has ram boxes in a little bit, but always a nice feature to have. The new one's got that Rebel decal. And then taking a look at what we can see with the suspension. So that's the new one. This is the previous gen. This one actually is open, doesn't have wheelhouse liners. Yeah, it looks pretty much the same. And funny enough, both of these have bed liner from the factory. And then you can see there's a big difference with the taillights here. I'm still debating which one I like best, to be honest. They both look cool in their own right. Like, here's the back end of the previous gen Rebel, and here's the back end of the new Rebel. I don't know. Very similar, yet different. And then popping inside of the new Rebel here, you can see that the interior is pretty much a carryover. There with the seats. Let's see what the payload difference is with them. So this one's got a payload capacity of 1469. We'll see how much payload is on the previous gen. Got this full digital gauge cluster. Definitely a different sound. But you got stuff like adaptive cruise control, your gear limiter. We do have the drive mode select, so that's something that's new, a little bit different. But you can see this whole infotainment system stack. Pretty similar. Notice that this area right here is a little bit different with the new one. Still have the advanced 4-wheel drive system, rear locking diff, all of that. And then nice material use here on the dash as well. And then the cool center console setup that opens up. Provides tons of storage. Now the previous gen is all blacked out the interior because this one has the Rebel 12 package. It'll make sense at the end of the video, trust me, it'll make sense. Anyways, payload is $12.97, so a little bit less. And this one's already on, I forgot. So yeah, I still have full digital gauge cluster. You can see the steering wheel is similar, but we don't have the all drive mode select with this. Ah, and interesting, this one doesn't have 4-wheel auto. Very interesting. Do have off-road cruise control, axle lock, and all of that. And you can see how this looks just a little bit different with the controls. And then we do have nice materials on the dash with this one. And then we actually have a camera rear view mirror as well. So when it comes to pricing, the new one stickers for about $69,000. The previous gen as equipped stickers for about $75,000. Now you might say, okay, well, it's just more optioned out, but there are discounts on the previous gen trucks, almost $10,000 roughly. So that one after the discounts is like $66,000. So you could buy a more loaded up Rebel with a previous gen for less money than you can buy close to like a, not quite a base model, but more baseline Rebel. So let's take them out, drive them, and see which one's best. Well, we'll set off on the Hemi first and we'll do the Hurricane second. I guess this can be another Hurricane versus Hemi test. But I thought this would be a fun video to do because you've got some pretty substantial discounts on these previous gen Rebels here. Man, sometimes these modern climate control systems, there's just too much going on with them. But yeah, you've got some pretty substantial discounts, and so it's like, hey, what do? Do you get the brand new one with less options for more money, or do you get this one with more options for less money? And I know a lot of you might think it's an obvious choice, but I mean, I figured we still do the drive and see. Love that Hemi sound. So it's not like loud and obnoxious, it's just smooth. So is the power delivery. You know, this eTorque Hemi is such a good powertrain because the eTorque helped it out in the low end, and then with a naturally aspirated V8 you just get that smooth V8 power delivery. It's really something. Yeah, this is nice. Smooth. Gotta get into it a little bit, but still with that 8-speed automatic and everything, it's just a smooth drive. That Hurricane's gonna have to be one heck of a powertrain to compare to this. It comes to every aspect of it. Oh, I guess I should have gone, but you know, it is what it is. We'll say this interior is really nice. Just the overall material use. Don't think you can go wrong with the quote-unquote previous gen, because it still has a lot of the updates. It has the big digital gauge cluster, all of that. Hemi power. Solid. So yeah, let's pop into the new Rebel and see if I feel like I'm getting a much nicer truck. Well, let's set off in the new Rebel with the Hurricane. See how she performs. Doesn't sound as good. Right off the bat, you don't get that like nice low Hemi rumble. And the other thing I'd say is the Hemi's more responsive, right? That always happens when you go from a naturally aspirated engine to a turbocharged engine. The turbo engine, although, you know, has more horsepower, more torque, it's not going to have that immediate response you get from a naturally aspirated engine. Right? Naturally aspirated engines kind of like an on-off switch, whereas turbocharged engines, they kind of almost like a dimmer switch in a way. It's not bad though. It's not bad. Let's try not to hit the cone. It's a tight fit. Interested to see how the high output feels with this. But I'm not really noticing a benefit in drivability, the new one. It's different, but it's not necessarily better. The acceleration's like with the Hurricane. Oof! And that's where the Hurricane feels crazier, is like when you're full throttle, this engine's just a monster. As things stand right now, I'd probably get a leftover 24, right? Big discount. You're getting pretty much all the same features. You don't get the drive modes, but boo-hoo, who cares? It's a pickup truck, you don't need drive modes. So, I mean, you need tow haul mode. I'll put that caveat. That's a nice thing to have. But anyways, yeah, I like the new one. But I think the old one is such a good truck, and I think that's the uphill battle that Ram's gonna have, is that 5.7 Hemi in that previous gen truck. They didn't really, like, this truck is so similar to the previous gen. It's just an engine change, and the Hemi's such a good engine, it's gonna be hard to pull people out of those Hemis. There's a lot of people that will be buried with them, I bet.